What's going on, everybody, and welcome on into episode 264 of the Garage Beers podcast, brought to you proudly here on the OBR streaming network. The Orange and Brown Report is the oldest and largest independent Browns coverage site in all of Cleveland. And then on Tuesday nights and whatever night you hang out with us, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch or Apple or Spotify, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But whatever night you hang out with us, you get to talk about the Cavs like we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about a little bit about the Browns. We're going to talk about the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs, and so much more. So big time shout out to the OBR for hanging with us and for sponsoring us and supporting us. Get over to the OBR.com and make sure you subscribe over there, and make sure whether you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or wherever tonight, make sure you hit follow, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you hit like. And we appreciate your support. Also, get over to these socials at the Garage Beers, everywhere that you find the socials, and make sure you hit follow there. With you, as always, I'm your host, Michael Keefe. Find me online at Garage Beers Mike, and joining me tonight in the garage, first of all, over on the east side of Cleveland, and it's the garage with quotes. It's quotes garage because Chad's hanging out on a beautiful night out on the porch on the east side of Cleveland. It's Chad Meyer at Garage Beers. Chad, what's up, Chad?
So how many years do we got to go by? I mean, I know we're going to talk about it in a minute, but how many years got to go by before the Hawks comparisons are fair? Is it fair now?
No, right. Yeah, right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, right now.
In that case, I had a thought today, and don't worry, I did hurt myself. I feel like these Cavs teams might be worse than those Hawks teams. Like, it might be worse. Because if there's one thing that those Hawks team was missing, it was a Donovan Mitchell, and not that Donovan Mitchell's to blame for this because he did everything he could, but that Hawks team was without a superstar, so it could be worse. This Cavs team could be worse. So hopefully they're able to do something next year.
Listen, we're gonna.
We love to hear after a playoff run. Good.
Could be worse. We've got one of our good buddies. He's waiting in the wings. I see him kind of nodding, but also shaking his head. He's doing everything in the background.
I knew that was going to get him going.
You've already got him going. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this on our Cavs kind of a eulogy almost, but also a look ahead for the Cavs. But listen, I said this. I argued with people all year long that no, this Cavs team was different than the Hawks because they had a defensive player in the year in Evan Mobley, and they have a player that the Hawks never had, like you just said, Chad, in Donovan Mitchell. And I said, no, this is deeper. They're better. But you know what? Results do matter in the end. And
in the end, that's the only stat that matters.
The Cavs are going to have a chance to prove differently in the coming years because of how they went about their contract situation. But like right now, no, that's not an unfair comparison. And if you want to argue about it, like you really can't. You really can't. You really can't. And that sucks, but you really can't argue it until they do something to change it next year. Again, I don't want to go too deep into this because I'm going to guess our special guest is going to have some words about this. I'm going to guess he's going to have some
I can't wait.
Also joining us in his new home of the beautiful Seattle, Washington, out where Chad, you and I are in the dark. Our special guest tonight and Joey are out in the sunshine out there out west.
Yeah.
Joey out there in Seattle at Garage Beers. Joe, what's up, Joe?
Boys, sundown sets like 8:30 here. It's lovely.
Well, technically, it doesn't set till 8:30 here either.
5:30 your time.
Technically,
debatable. That's fair. All right, fair. Hi. I guess I wasn't even ready to be introduced. I'm just happy to be here. Sorry I missed last week. I don't even remember what was going on. Something was going on. Good to be back. Got some beer. Got some just venting of the Cavs, I guess, and sports in general. It hasn't been a great sports week, I feel. This is needed. Thank you.
You know, we're going to get into those beers, but the first thing we're going to do, listen, later on in the show, there's so much shit going on with the Cleveland Browns.
So much shit going on.
So we're going to talk about it. And the Cleveland Guardians have got some shit going on, so we're going to talk about that. We've also got the Stanley Cup playoffs going on right now. The first game of the Final Four, basically the conference championships. We've got the first game of the conference championships in the NBA going on right now. We're going to talk about all that, and then we're going to pay a little tribute to one of my all-time favorites that we learned passed away today. We're going to pay a tribute with a little game later in the show, but we're going to kick things off by bringing in one of our really good friends and just one of the best minds out there when it comes to talking about Cleveland Cavaliers basketball. And I know maybe some of us aren't over what happened with the Cleveland Cavaliers over the last couple of weeks, but we're going to try to talk our way through it. And frankly, we're going to try to talk our way through some of the nonsense that's being thrown around right now in regards to the Cavaliers. But we're going to bring him in right now. He is one half of the official podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Chase Down podcast, right now from Winnipeg, who they've also had a little bit of tough playoff situations up there in Winnipeg. We're going to bring him right in right now. It's Justin Rowan. Justin.
Who do you say isn't over in the playoffs? Yeah. You really hit me with both barrels, NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs. Like, I'm just in mourning. These one seeds keep just dropping out of my life. And on the subject of time zones, we're 20 minutes away from 8:30 here in the central time zone. Sun is still out. So, Joe, this is how it works. It progresses across North America.
Well, that's what it does. Okay.
I am as geographically close to the center of North America as it gets. We got a big sign just outside of Winnipeg, center of the continent. So, we're getting there. We're about 20 minutes away. Boys, thank you so much for having me. As I said, morning, both the Cavs, the Jets. Chad's hitting me with Atlanta Hawks comparisons. Like, I just feel like I'm under attack here.
The Blue Bombers. The Blue Bombers.
Hey, you know what? I didn't even realize. Like, in my mind, CFL football, I'm thinking June. There was a preseason game here on Saturday. As a season ticket holder, I think they added that to the schedule late. But yeah, my mind is completely scrambled by that fact. I came to that reality today. CBL basketball tipped off on Friday, so at least I've got my Winnipeg sports distractions here. But like you said, I'm in mourning. I got to be honest.
Well, first question, Justin, and it's a heavy one, so I hope you're ready. What is this team going to look like when Jared Allen is traded for Draymond Green?
No, we're not just jumping. Into that. We are not just jumping into that BS. No, we're not.
Let's just point out those salaries don't match. Yeah. The second apron stuff means that you cannot combine. So let's actually just start there as a general disclaimer for all things Cavs. One of the trickiest things when you're talking about breaking up the core is because you can't combine multiple players basically as a second apron team, you have to find someone that either makes less or as much as these guys, which is why it's a real pain when you look at like a Jared Allen as an example. Every player in that kind of salary range is a role player. He's going to be, if you look at the current Cavs salaries, he's going to be the 5th highest paid Cavalier. Like, he's more in the Max Strus range than he is, other fringe all-stars. So that becomes difficult. Darius gets paid like Drew Holiday money. And we saw Drew has almost nothing left in the tank, despite what our buddy Anthony Lima has to say there. It just makes things so difficult. So I understand the frustrations. I was certainly frustrated. I think that this team is going to take a lot of lumps in this offseason. I think they deserve to take a lot of lumps. That comes with expectations. You can't have, the highs that you want. You can't get the national coverage that you want when you're on a winning streak, and then not expect them to do what national media does when teams come up short. Like, that's part of the equation. And, this team and front office has shown thick skin in the past, not overreacting to stuff. So I'll be interested to see how they approach this offseason. But, as far as like the discourse goes, I'm not going to sit here and gatekeep it. I don't agree with everything that's being said, but at the same time, who am I to sit there and say, well, yeah, just kind of trust me, right? This team that you had criticisms of going into the season that didn't prove you wrong, I expect you to approach that with a lot of nuance and change your opinions, even though they've done nothing to change your opinion.
All right. You guys have jumped in so freaking quickly.
Hey.
And like, I didn't even get to talk about the drinks yet because listen, we need it, Justin, because we've watched our 1 seed fall in the playoffs, and here in Cleveland, we're just being bombarded with nonstop talk about Cleveland Browns stuff that doesn't matter for another several months.
Yeah. Big
So
Bill
we're being
Sampson
bombarded
guy
with
over
that.
here.
You have 2 1 seeds that have gone down. So you need drinks. So let's start with our garage beers of the week. Justin, we know that you're not the beer guy. We did see the bottle. You went straight from the bottle to kick things off here.
Have to.
So what are we drinking straight out of the bottle here tonight?
No, I do have my little one, but for comedic effect, I thought
Yeah, of course.
put the bottle to the mouth.
The expectation is that you keep it straight out of the bottle.
A little bit of the Corazon tequila. Big fan of it. Nice añejo. I'm finding anything to cope these days.
Yeah, I noticed it's almost empty.
Yeah,
It's getting down there.
Yeah,
You bought that
that
this
was
morning.
from Friday. No, I'm kidding.
All right, a little añejo tequila for Mr. Rowan up there, which is the national drink of Canada. So I'm really excited about that. Joey, what's happening out there in Seattle?
I got the Elysian. Oh, it's backwards. Phase Dust Imperial Hazy IPA. It's delicious.
Okay, all right.
Kind of too many words in the name, but it's very good.
It looks like you're drinking it out of like a beaker.
Well, it's got a little handle on it. All my glasses are in storage, so we're going with what we got here.
That's a pretty good Beaker impression.
Yes, that was a solid
good
Muppet, my man. That was a solid Muppet.
Thank you very much.
Why don't you just take it, Beaker? What's your beer?
No, I can't remember whether I had this on the show last week or not, but when it dove back into the Market Garden Brewery Shandy Variety Pack, and it's a ginger mule.
Yep, you had it last week.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep.
Well, I need more ginger to help digest this awful 1 seed losing. Cavs lost the series, so I need help. It's delicious. It's a wheat beer brewed with ginger soda. Here we go.
This is a cry for help, everybody. It's a cry for help, and we're here. We're going to talk through it. I do want to get to some.
I'm just so I can't help myself.
I want to get to some of you in the comments. Jeff Tucker is drinking a Voodoo Ranger IPA. Love that. How about Kid Wilson with the Dollar General Miller High Life 8-pack, 16 ounces, tall boys for $6.95.
Deal.
Shout out to Kid Wilson for that.
I'm pretty sure that's the first price brag we've ever had.
That's fine. It's cool. You can.
That's
brag
awesome.
about your Dollar
Oh, it's
General
awesome.
Miller High Lifes. Although I do think if you're buying a Dollar General, it should be $1. I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I mean, that is
should be $1.
It's less than $1 per beer
for a beer, but it's a pack. It should be $1.
Yeah.
Don't argue with me.
Just
Gregory's
like everything at $2 should have been $2.
Our buddy Gregory drinking Jack and Cokes with a Keystone, as always. Yeah. And listen, I'm right back. I was home for 1 week last week, and I am right back in Massachusetts, about as far from Joe as I could possibly be in the United States. I am just outside of Boston, where they are also mourning what happened with the Celtics. It's kindred spirits here with me up here, but of course, I spent my night last night at Treehouse Brewery, and I've got Mama's Ray of Sunshine. And Mama's Ray of Sunshine is an 8% coffee milk stout. And I'm just going to have this one, and I'm going to slow sip it, because if I do any more than that, it's going to be a problem for the remainder of the show. And that's what we're doing. So those are our beers of the week. Thank you guys for sharing in the comments what yours are. If you didn't get to it, but you're listening to us or watching us later, make sure you put it on the socials and we'll call it out. But cheers to you guys. Let's get into episode 264. And Justin, man, it's I said this after the NFL draft because I feel like we went into full-on silly season with how people grade the draft immediately afterwards. And I think it's all crazy before you even see a player play or anything like that. Well, I feel like we are in full-on silly season with the Cleveland Cavaliers because, well, you know what? Let's start with the downside. And let's start with what Chad brought up at the beginning of the show, Justin. It was the comparison that we heard about this Cavaliers team from the naysayers all season long. Every naysayer about this Cleveland Cavaliers team called them the Atlanta Hawks all season long, obviously referring to that Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver, Al Horford version of the Atlanta Hawks that won 60-plus games and then got dominated by LeBron and the Cavaliers in the playoffs. And a lot of us spent time, myself included, too much time, wasted a lot of breath arguing that point. And in the end, the Cavaliers got dominated in the playoffs by an Indiana Pacers team that played really well. And listen, I want to start this conversation by taking nothing away from the Pacers. You could not have played better in a series than the Indiana Pacers played against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were absolutely spectacular, but they had no business dominating the Cavaliers the way that they did. And that comparison, it's hard to argue. I want to argue with it. I want to say you're full of you know what, but like it's hard to argue, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know what? It's an even more fitting comparison in a lot of ways because of how we remember playoffs. Because that Atlanta Hawks team, I think people forget. Thabo Cephalosha got his leg broken by the police. Kyle Korver, his leg folded like a deck of cards in that series. Damari Carroll had a bad injury in game 1. People don't remember that. Al Horford messed up his shoulder. I think it was in game 3. I believe it was wrestling with Dellavedova, and then he got thrown out of the game for trying to fight Delly. So people forget about all of those factors that go into it. And honestly, I think the same is going to be true for the Cavs. I don't think people are going to remember that Darius Garland's basically playing with turf toe and a carbon fiber splint on his toe. I don't think people are going to remember that Donovan Mitchell is playing on a bum ankle and a calf strain, or Mobley playing through a high ankle sprain. The broadcast was even wondering, hey, why is DeAndre Hunter having trouble dribbling or gripping a basketball? Well, it's probably because the thumb on his shooting hand is dislocated. But with all of that being said, I think the Cavs, in the injured state that they were in, had enough to win that series against the Indiana Pacers. I think you look at game 1, I do believe that injuries swung that game to some extent. They were up in the fourth quarter. They took the lead. They were playing a small ball lineup with DeAndre Hunter at the 4. Hunter obviously gets taken out of the game. Mobley has a high ankle sprain at about like the 8:30 mark, I believe. And then from that point, Indy goes on a bit of a run. Mobley can't keep up with Siakam, in transition and things like that. He's wearing a walking boot the next day, right? Like it's a walking boot level injury that he's playing through. And they weren't able to keep that small ball lineup out there. But even with all of those injuries, I think it leveled the playing field to a point where it came down to execution. And because the playing field got leveled, I think, some of the Cavs' bad habits came out in that series. I think if the team was fully healthy, people feel free to disagree with me here. I think if the team was fully healthy, it would have been able to out-talent the Indiana Pacers. I think their bad habits would have got swept under the carpet. And those bad habits would have come back to bite them in an embarrassing series against the Boston Celtics if they played them, or the Oklahoma City Thunder, who play a very similar style to the Indiana Pacers, just with much, much better defensive personnel. Those habits would have come up and would have been the reason why they didn't win a championship this year. But I think they got exposed around early because they had to play through some limitations and, they reverted to a lot of their bad habits. And I think people are always going to pick their favorite scapegoat, but I think from the coaching staff all the way down to the 10th man in the rotation, everybody shares some blame here when it comes to what happened.
Justin, I got to be honest. I mean, you've been on here before. I'm not the biggest NBA fan.
Mm-hmm.
This Cavs team pulled me back in this year.
Yep.
I watched more Cavs games this year that I wasn't working. I watched more Cavs games on TV than I have in years. How the hell am I supposed to enjoy next season knowing this playoff cloud is over their head and that's all anybody's going to be talking about, whether they win 45 games or 65 games again? How am I supposed to enjoy next season?
Is it different than any other sport that you watch where, if your starting quarterback breaks their leg, if your starting goaltender gets hurt or is limited in some way, like injuries are always going to be part of the story.
I would not know that because I'm a Browns fan.
I think, we've had that share of misfortune. So
yeah,
I do think, it is going to be a bit of a hurdle for some fans, right? Like we've talked about that in our Discord from time to time. And like, I got to be honest, if you're listening to the Chase Down podcast, you're probably a sicko, right? Like we are getting into the nitty gritty. Like if I have to convince you why you should enjoy watching basketball, like probably not our target audience, right? Like,
yeah.
like
Hold on, but Justin, to just expound upon Chad's point, I do
Yeah.
think it's fair even for the sickos.
Yeah.
This-
Like
this
I was
situation-
going to say, like, if I was building upon a point there, because I think, if you're a casual that's normally not into basketball and what the Cavs were doing, like brought you in, I think it is going to be a bit of an uphill climb, right? Like you're not as invested in the ebbs and flows as someone that is, a diehard fan. I think even for myself, it's going to have an impact. And I'm someone that's watched 82 games for the past, God, I don't know, 15 years here, and then rewatch most of those games. It's going to have an impact on me. I think I took for granted the fact that I thought, oh, it's going to be an Eastern Conference Finals run. Like it's, this was the first time that we had a team this good, a 60-win team without LeBron, right? LeBron, if he messed up his ankle like Donovan did, he tightens his shoes and it's fine. Like there is not another athlete in the history of the sport that does that, right? Like it just doesn't make any sense. So I do think it is going to be an uphill climb, and this team is going to have to win people back with the postseason. But I do expect some changes, whether it be to the rotation. I expect, continued internal growth. And, the unfortunate thing is with what happened to the Boston Celtics, the Eastern Conference is wide open. Like I thought Boston was vulnerable coming in. I wasn't expecting, Jaylen Brown to be playing through a torn meniscus in the playoffs. I knew his knee was bad. I didn't know it was that bad. Porzingis couldn't breathe out there with whatever illness he had. And then Jason Tatum obviously tore his Achilles. Like, that's done. That team is completely out of the mix. And what you're left with, at least for the current teams, is a Knicks team that the Cavs swept that didn't have any problem dealing with the Knicks, even in a game that Donovan Mitchell sat out,
Right.
and an Indiana Pacers team which can test you, but I still do believe that the Cavs are more talented on paper. So from a team building standpoint, talent's the hardest thing to acquire and bring in. I think what this Cavs team needs more than anything is maturity. I think they need to become a more mature team and up their composure, because the things they need to do in the playoffs are things they have done at times in both the regular season and the playoffs. It's about doing it for 48 minutes. Game 2, I played Indy for 45 minutes. That wasn't enough. There was 3 more minutes left in the game. That's the margins that we're talking about here.
When you do what we do and we sit here and talk about sports all the time, every once in a while you say something where you're like, man, I feel smart about saying that. And in all of my recaps, and you know me, I watch every game and I do these silly recaps after every game. And the thing that I feel about this team, and the thing that I really want them to take away, and you talked about this, and we can kind of dive into the other areas, Justin, but the thing that I really feel like, okay, this is the thing I want this team to learn from this. This is the area I think they need to grow the most. And I don't mean to like call anybody out or say anything, but like for me, it's Kenny Atkinson. And I think what you saw in this Pacers series, when the chips all got pushed out there, and when you were dealing with the injuries, and when you were dealing with the Pacers that were shooting it felt like they were shooting 97% from the field. And when you were dealing with all the bounces going the wrong way, and you were dealing with all the 50-50 balls going to the other team and all that, what I saw was a team, as you said, Justin, that fell into some bad habits that we are familiar with this team, a team that fell into a style of play that we're unfamiliar with based on how they played all season this year. A team that reverted into a style that is non-conducive for winning. And all I wanted to see during that time was when the timeouts came up and when halftime came up and when it was time to get your team back and focused and into the game and back into their playing style. I wanted to see Kenny Atkinson get these dudes refocused and say, quit playing ISO ball. That's not how we're built. Quit playing hero ball. It's not how we're built. I wanted to see it, and I don't think we did enough. So again, I'm not in the huddles. I don't know exactly what was said, but I do think there's a lesson here for Kenny Atkinson as the man at the helm of a team with a ton of expectations. I think he's the guy that needs to take that away and go, hey, listen, when they are straying this far off course, I, as the head coach, need to be the guy that pulls them back in.
I definitely think there's something to that. And I'm always more inclined to put the accountability on the players. Like, even when people were kind of writing everything off as a JB Bickerstaff thing, last season, I said, no, like this is something that, the players are going to have to overcome. Like, obviously last year, Donovan wasn't able to finish the playoffs. Darius was dealing with, the aftermath of the job. Mobley, once again, was playing through a high ankle sprain. Like, that stuff's not in your control, but you could tell that the buy-in wasn't there all year. And, you make a coaching change because you think it's going to improve that buy-in. And I think we did see that. I think we saw growth across the board when it came to the team.
Yes.
But still ultimately on the players, right? Especially basketball, like, you're going to draw up offense. But for the most part, what you are asking guys to do, you're asking your primary initiators to make read and react plays. And you want all 5 guys to be on a string, knowing that, all right, if the defense does this, we do this. And our ball handlers have to make those reads on the go. They have to call those audibles on the fly. It's not like football where, you line up, you've called your play, and then you go out and execute. It's on the players to make those decisions. And I thought the guards got away from what they've been saying the last however many years, which is, we are only going to go as far as Evan Mobley takes us. We understand the limitations that a small backcourt has when you're going up against playoff defenses that can throw length, that can throw size and physicality. You need a front court player that can break that pressure. I have seen the Cavs go out in the playoffs and lose with, Donovan shooting 30%. I've seen Darius shoot 30% in a playoff game. I've seen them kind of have like those 5 for 20 games or whatever. I've never seen them lose that way with Evan Mobley, where he just got tons and tons of volume. And we just, he went out swinging. He missed his shots. Sucks, but you know what? Like, that's a learning experience. It's usually very high volume or very high efficiency, low volume. His pick and roll numbers, amazing. Like, the most efficient. The only player as a pick and roll man, if you look at the NBA.com data, that was more efficient in the playoffs was Max Strus. Max Strus got more roll man opportunities than Evan Mobley did in the playoffs. That's nuts. Mobley had the lowest frequency out of any player that had at least 10 pick and roll man possessions. Those stats are a little wonky on NBA.com because it only counts when the possession ends with you as a finisher. But still, I think we all felt that he was not involved enough. We didn't use Evan Mobley, particularly when he was the most healthy of the bunch, pretty much, with the exception of Jared Allen.
Now, I want to piggyback off this for a second here, Justin, because, you talked about this is a team that needs to mature.
Yeah.
How exactly do they do that? Is it going to take everybody? Is it strictly on the players? Is it a Kenny Atkinson thing? Because, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a clip of Channing Frye on his podcast today say Jared Allen isn't a playoff center.
Yep.
So, I mean, and obviously he went into that, he's got to knock somebody out, whatever. How do they become that? How do they become more mature?
I do think it's a top-down thing. So I think obviously Kenny has to learn from this experience. All right, this is how I communicated with this group, and it didn't resonate in this moment. When we were dealing with this level of playoff intensity and pressure, and guys were banged up, and we had all these variables, it didn't resonate. I need to communicate with my players to figure out, okay, what could I have done better? Where did we go wrong in the messaging? From, Donovan and Darius standpoint, I think it takes some introspection, right? Like, I appreciate the living hell out of what those guys did in game 5, like in particular, like both of them, you could tell they didn't have a whole lot left. Honestly, it softened the blow because I was watching that series and I was like, even if they beat Indiana, this team doesn't have another round in them. Like, physically, they don't have another round in them. And as someone that is currently still dealing with Achilles recovery, Donovan dealing with a calf after what I saw happen to Jason Tatum, like, I'm just happy that this season was a lost one and we're not writing off next year as well, right?
Yes.
So I do think from their standpoint, though, what we've seen time and time again is in the clutch, they do get, a little too ball dominant. They don't always find the big man in those spots. That needs to be internal for both Donovan and Darius to improve in that spot. Mobley has to be more assertive. Jared Allen has to look within himself and say, all right, I was awesome the first 7 games of these playoffs. Mobley wasn't getting rebounds against Miami. Jared was out there dominating Bam Adebayo,
Yes.
who's an all-star, one of the better centers in this league. He was dominating Bam Adebayo, and he was great the first couple games in this playoffs too. What happened? Why? I have 11 straight good playoff games going back to the 4 last year that he played, where he averaged like 17 and 14. I had all of those. Why did it look so bad when it went bad in games 4 and 5? I think you have to have that introspection there. And I actually thought one of the things that really landed for me in Kobe's press conference at the end of the year was he mentioned, Miles Turner got all of that same stuff that Jared got. And that's dating back to, think back, that was 2017 when we beat them. One of the takeaways is Miles Turner isn't a playoff big man. We got to get rid of him. This is 7 years later. And it's come up every single year after that. Know who else has isn't a playoff big man or isn't a playoff performer? Karl Anthony Towns, Julius Randle, Miles Turner. All of these guys are in the conference finals right now. Yeah. So, we want those instant results. It is scary when you're talking about someone that has the talent. It's just, can they apply themselves consistently enough? Because that's different than adding a jump shot or something tangible that we can see. But at the same time, like, talent is the harder thing to do. Asking Jared Allen to, instead of, doing this 7 out of 9 games, to do it 8 out of 9 or 9 out of 9 times, to me, that's an easier hill to climb. It's still scary because you're dealing with, personalities, and some teams just never figure it out. But it does at least make me feel a little bit more comfortable.
And we're going to trade him for Draymond's nut kicks. Unbelievable.
Hell yeah.
Unbelievable.
A player that's never struggled in a playoff series.
Yeah, right.
No, it's we then get to this, as we sit here and kind of eulogize this season. I think one of the hard things that's been there for Cavs fans and people like us to swallow is I think the thing that's going to make you nervous from here on out until they prove otherwise is you went from the JB Bickerstaff system where, man, everybody played like 1,000 minutes a game.
Yep.
They were playing minutes in games that didn't even exist. They were playing minutes that you didn't know guys could play. Yep. And you come over to this Kenny Atkinson system, and one of the reasons we felt like there was so much promise with this team this year is that, man, did Kenny manage those lineups and manage those minutes. The Cavaliers went through the whole damn season of the good teams in the NBA with some of the lowest starter usage rates in the entire league. Yep. They managed everything to get to the point. And then when we have this conversation here tonight on May 20th, after the Cavaliers have been eliminated, and Justin, when you say a phrase that says, we know even if the Cavs got past the Pacers, they didn't have another round in them.
Yeah.
That is nerve-wracking for Cavs fans moving forward.
Yeah. It scares the hell out of me. I think there's variables and factors to consider there. Like I look at basically how the season closed. They had a 22-game stretch where they only played in the same city once. Like, it was functionally, they had a 17-game road trip where even the Cleveland games, it's one night in town, you're flying out at 2 a.m. That's going to have some wear and tear on the body. But I look at this and I look at Donovan Mitchell. You look at him in the playoffs the last 4 years. What's been a consistent thing that's come up? Wear and tear, lower body injuries, even dating back to Utah, right? Like hamstring has come up, the calves come up, the ankles come up. He's been a superhero in the playoffs, and I think he's done a good job playing through some of those injuries. But, he's struggled from the field in those games. Like, he shot 44% from the field and 30% from 3. Like, that's not great efficiency, right? So in my mind, it's okay, what can we do to get Donovan to the playoffs healthy? How can we continue to, manage his minutes throughout the regular season, manage the load? And, when it comes to Darius and Mobley, that's like Mobley landed on an ankle. Darius courtside, I think he landed on a fan and got turf toe. Like, that sucks. But those aren't things that you can prevent, right? And one of the things And one of the things Kenny said, and actually it was one of my fears that I talked about all season long, because I remember the Milwaukee Bucks with Mike Budenholzer, where they would manage the minutes throughout the season. And then Giannis would get to the playoffs and he would get tired in the fourth quarter. And I said, if you're going to do this approach, what you need to do is ramp up the minutes as you get closer to the playoffs. You have to get guys ready for the conditioning of the playoffs. And Kenny, I appreciate this. I love Kenny's transparency. He said, we did an okay job with that, right? With the way the schedule worked out to close out the year. With the fact that we blew teams out by 2030, it was tough to do the ramp up that we were expecting. Donovan had to have his minutes managed, right? Like Ty got a week off. Donovan got a week off because both of their bodies were kind of wearing down. Hopefully, that it's not the same thing from a schedule standpoint. Maybe Cleveland has to say no to the MAC tournament and the NCAA tournament, because I think those two things back to back were why they had such an extended road trip. So maybe they got to be a less gracious host to the nation. But yeah, I think, finding ways to lighten that load on Donovan in particular has to be one of the priorities. And to me, that just neatly ties into giving Evan Mobley more usage, because we got to figure out what we have with him.
Sir, are you suggesting that the Cleveland Cavaliers dare to say no to the Mid-American Conference?
I'm just saying, pick one.
How dare you?
And of course, you pick the MAC. You don't pick March Madness over the MAC. You got to do that.
You don't just simply say no when Ball State comes calling, pal. All right, you don't just simply say no. All right,
buddy.
All right. So Justin, listen, we can sit here and eulogize the team, but we're now the season ended 1 week ago tonight.
Yep.
And since 1 week ago tonight, again, it's become silly season. And man, oh man, have the dramatics been flying about the Cavaliers over the last week. And I will tell you that I really appreciated listening to Kobe's presser. I want a guy that talks like he does. I want a guy that thinks like he does. I do not want fans running the Cleveland Cavaliers because, man, the shit I've been listening to this week has been crazy. You have to I think the common sentiment in Cleveland is that you have to some way tear this team apart, and you have to start fresh in some areas. You've got to rip this core four, which, by the way, they completely reinvested in last year. You have to rip it apart, and you've got to start fresh. You've got to start to find ways to make trades and bring other. Now, we already talked about it, Justin. Yeah. When you're a second apron team, you're not going to find these trades. Like, they're just not going to happen. But having said that, going into this offseason, Justin, I don't think it's unfair to say like this roster couldn't get better in places. I think this roster was absolutely desperate for another halfway decent big man that could come off the bench that they never found a way to include. But otherwise, I mean, the pieces are here. So like when you hear what Kobe Altman said, when you hear what Kenny Atkinson has said, when you've heard the people, Bill Simmons is like Evan Mobley for Giannis Antetokounmpo, who says no? Like, I say no, please. No, I love Giannis. And actually, I think Giannis is the most likable guy in the NBA. But no, I say no to that. I say no. What is the path for them this offseason? And what do you want to see out of the Cavaliers, knowing how limited their options are?
Yeah, I mean, even going back to last offseason, I'm open to anything that makes this team better. I do think when you look at the Cavs, Jared Allen, like he is a member of the core, but at the same time, you have three guys that were in legitimate all NBA conversations, right? Like I listened to national podcasts and people had, Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue had Darius ahead of Donovan for most of the year on all NBA teams, which I didn't agree with personally. But you have three guys that are all stars and all NBA, caliber players. Those guys, I think you almost have to put like a half tier above Jared when it comes to team building. But the reality is Jared on the value deal, which he's still on for another year, it does make salary matching really hard, especially when you can't combine with contracts. So if we are operating under the assumption that the core is going to remain, I would almost even extend that to six guys. Max Strus and DeAndre Hunter, I think that those guys are going to be in place. How do you make it feel different to play against you? Has to be the question that Kobe Altman asks himself. What options are available to change how we feel within the rotation? And the thing that comes to mind, I agree with you when it comes to a big man, right? Like I think there was a reason the Cavs were attached to Naz Reid and PJ Washington a couple years ago when they're looking at Okoro sign and trade options and things like that. Like those types of guys make a lot of sense. I would love to add one. I think that they have a decision to make when it comes to Ty Jerome and Sam Merrill. Yes. Because I think Sam Merrill held up better than I ever could have expected. I thought he 100%. Played great two-way basketball. He deserves like less than no blame for how this season played out.
Right.
Ty Jerome, obviously an awful series against the Pacers. I'm not going to hold that against him in a big way. But the reason why I say the decision comes up between those two is because if you are taking a philosophy that we are going to play one of Darius and Donovan on the court at all times, and Ty is going to be that second guard that we're staggering with, that means that Sam Merrill's playing minutes, it's coming at small forward, and you are playing 3-guard lineups. They would do that for about 20 minutes a game. And if you want to play bigger, you want to play more physical, you want to change how it feels to play against the Cleveland Cavaliers, you can't do that with 3-guard lineups. You already have that going on with Darius and Donovan. I think you have to make a decision. Unless Sam is okay with coming back and saying, all right, some nights I'm not going to be in the rotation. Other nights I will. I'm fine with that. Then by all means, welcome him back with open arms. If you can't sign Ty Jerome and you're going to play either Darius or Donovan at point guard for the entirety of the game, bring back Sam Merrill. I am fine with him running around as a shooting guard, getting shots up, playing two-way basketball. He was terrific. But I don't think you can play 3-guard lineups. So to me, that means you have to find a big man, preferably, a backup 4-5, where you no longer feel like you have to play DeAndre Hunter as a backup power forward, and you can start him at a small forward. That means Max Strus slides on over to that Sam Merrill role where he's playing the 2 and the 3. All of a sudden, you are a bigger, more physical team. And the other name that I want to throw out there is Jalen Tyson. I think you need to figure out what you have with him. I love the way he plays. I love the way he hits the glass. I think he is a physical player that is able to play either the 3 or 4 spot. I would like to see him part of the permanent regular season rotation, but I think you also have to have a contingency plan in place, whether that's a Javonte Green or some other veteran you sign for a minimum, that if Jalen Tyson isn't ready to play playoff minutes by the time you get there, you have that plan B where he doesn't have to. You can't rely on that, but sometimes you need to hit on those guys. Similar to Indiana, how they hit on, Nembhard or Neesmith, right? Like these guys that you find on cheap rookie contracts are so essential to NBA team building. I think the Cavs have a lot of depth. I think they have a lot of options, but they need to change how it feels to play against them.
I think that is a great point. And it does show you that there is room for this Cavaliers team to make some moves. Because I think when you're sitting here talking about the big boys, it's going to be hard for them to do that. But man, one move that could maybe put DeAndre Hunter at the starting 3, put Max Strus at that backup 2-guard position, I think that makes them instantly a more difficult team to play. And again, if you can get Ty Jerome, maybe Ty Jerome played himself into a contract
I think he was always in that range for the Cavs personally. Like I just didn't think the teams that could pay more than the mid-level exception would be in the market for a Ty Jerome. Like I just never thought that.
But yeah, if they can figure out a way to, I mean, man, you said Naz Reid, and I'll never get over the fact that he didn't wind up here because God, I love that guy.
Yeah,
but
big fan.
But yeah, there's room for moves, but for me, when I hear dramatic moves, I think we got to knock that off. They weren't a 64-win team because they stink. They weren't out there playing the way they did because they're bad.
Yep.
They just have to. I love the way you put. They have to change the way it feels to play against them. So Justin, we're going to let you get going here in a minute, but I want to hear your thoughts on one final thing, and then we're going to let you go.
All right.
We're in the Final Four. And right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves are smacking around the Oklahoma City Thunder in this game. They are more physical. I mean, it's not like it's not like the Timberwolves are running away.
Yeah.
But the Timberwolves have played really well against the Thunder in game 1. So on the West, we've got the Timberwolves and the Thunder. In the East, we have the Pacers and the Knicks, who do you think are the two teams that are going to be playing for the NBA Finals?
I think it's going to be Thunder and Pacers. I think Indy's going to handle New York. I said going into that series that Indy was the third best team in the Eastern Conference. Little known fact, the Boston Celtics, or I guess the New York Knicks, allowed more wide open threes than any team in the NBA playoffs in the second round against Boston. Boston just missed those shots. Like when you look at the open and wide open shots, Boston was averaging 48 a game. 48. Like they were just missing those shots. I don't think Indiana's going to miss with those types of looks. Obviously, weird things can happen in a series. I just think Indy's the deeper team. I haven't loved New York's roster construction. And let's be honest, like if the calls go properly, if the last 2-minute report is called properly, they might have lost in the first round of Detroit. Like I think Indy's winning, and I think it's going to be in 5 or 6 games.
Ooh. Listen, if Indy shoots the ball the way they did against the Cavs and they get that many open looks, maybe the problem is maybe if they get that many open looks, maybe they won't shoot the ball as well. But
if they miss open looks, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to go through like one of these a day.
All right, man. Justin, you are awesome. Thank you for helping us recap this Cavs season in a logical and sensible way, because that is not the primary talking point in Cleveland sports talk radio and other right now. It is goofy season, and we brought you on because we knew you'd be sensible. So listen, man, all through the off season, going into next year, the Chase Down podcast is the official Cavaliers podcast for a reason. They are the best. You and Carter are the best at talking about the Cavaliers. We're a close second, but you guys are the best at talking about the Cavaliers, and make sure you go follow the Chase Down podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to them and follow along with everything you guys are doing, because, I'll be watching all off season long, getting ready for next year. Justin, man, really appreciate you. Go follow him at Cavsanada on X. And man, we'll talk to you. I know we'll talk to you soon. It'll be draft season, and we'll bring you back.
Of course. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me on. You guys do really, really awesome work. And like you said, we'll be doing our podcast. It's kind of nice to have that week off that we always give ourselves after the season, where we're going live after every post game. But I can already tell, like, I started talking Cavs here, and like the fever is right back. And I'm always going to find those angles for optimism, because that's just the way that I experience fandom. But hopefully, there's a little something for everybody.
Hey, Justin, Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen for Giannis. Who says no?
Jimmy
for Ira Newble, Damon Jones.
Let's go. Damon Jones. All right, Justin, we love you, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you so much, boys.
See ya.
See you, Justin.
Big shout out to Justin Rowan for coming and talking Cavs with us. I needed that, boys.
Yeah.
Needed a little bit of level-headedness in the conversation, because the conversations that I continue to see about having to tear down this roster and these guys can't compete, and you got to trade this guy and that guy and this and that. And listen, I agree with some of the things I'm hearing. Like, I was listening to Channing Frye. We've had him on a couple of times. I love Channing Frye. I can't take a hardline stance against what a guy that has won an NBA title says about Jared Allen. And I want it to be not true, but it's going to be on Jared Allen to make it not true. But also, Channing Frye says it in a way that makes sense, and it comes from a place of experience, and there's room to fix it. A lot of the silly shit I'm hearing out there is just that. It is silly shit. And so great to hear Justin come on.
You look like you exhaled a little there.
What's that?
You look like you exhaled a little there.
Listen, I think it's fair to say that there are changes that need to happen with the Cavaliers. I don't think that means massive, dramatic roster changes.
Yeah.
Although there's going to be some roster changes, because that's the nature of sports. But I don't think we need to be talking about trading Darius Garland. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? I think this is more like changes within the building that are going to make them a better team. And to hear Justin talk about it just made me feel like, oh, maybe I'm not stupid. So yeah. I appreciate Justin for that.
So Jarrett, you're listening. I know you are. You better get in the MMA gym and start sparring with dudes.
Yeah.
Okay, just start tackling dummies. Pretend like you're kneeing them in the junk or in the jejunum.
Correct.
I don't know.
Straight shot to the jejunum.
Yeah, Ed Monix could help you out with that.
I don't know where that is, but I'm assuming it hurts.
Yeah, with the jejunum. Ed Monix taught Jackie Moon, if you remember.
Yes, I do. All right, real quick before we get to our assholes of the week, I asked Justin this, but two boys that are not the world's largest NBA guys, but come on, we're in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Pacers, Knicks, Thunder, and Timberwolves. Again, I believe we are at about halftime of the Thunder and the Wolves. And let me just get to that score here real quick. So at halftime, so the Thunder cut that lead a little bit. So it's 48-44 Timberwolves in Oklahoma City. But boys, do we agree with Justin? Is it going to be Indiana versus Oklahoma City, or do we see this going differently in this Final Four?
I agree with the OKC pick. I don't know if I agree with the Pacers pick. I just don't still don't believe the Pacers are good. Even though they just wiped the floor with us. Like, I don't know. I just don't believe it still. So I don't necessarily want the Knicks to win, but I kind of feel like they're gonna scrap it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Minnesota can match physicality with Oklahoma City. So it's and they have Minnesota has more. They don't have more stars, but they have better scorers on Minnesota. Julius Randle has been probably the most consistent he's ever been. So I kind of like the Wolves in 7. And as far as that, yeah, I think Indiana is going to lay waste to New York. I mean, especially if they keep shooting the way they're shooting. Like New York, the Knicks this year, at least through this playoff run, have either been really, really bad or really, really good. Like there's been no in between for them. So I think I think Indiana is going to win in 5 or 6.
My picks were completely the opposite of Justin's. I think it's Timberwolves and Knicks.
Yeah.
I do think the Thunder should be the heavy favorites to win the NBA Finals at this point. And if they do, I'm not going to be surprised in the slightest. I just think the matchup of this Timberwolves team, like I think if there's a guy that can go superstar for superstar against Shea, it's fucking Anthony Edwards, even though he got hurt in this game. So hopefully he's okay.
Oh, I didn't know that. Never mind. Thunder.
But like Chet Holmgren against a lot of guys is a massive mismatch. But I mean, you've got one of the best defensive players in the league in Minnesota. Julius Randle has proved to be a good playoff player. I just lauded Naz Reid. Naz Reid is my favorite non-Cavalier player in the NBA. I wish he was a Cav. There's no way you're ever going to get him at this point, and that is sad to me. I really like what Minnesota brings, and I feel like they might be built to take this Thunder team down. On the other hand, I do think we're in for that piss you off thing if you're a Cavs fan. I think we're in for the Indiana Pacers to come out and not play the way they did against the Cavs. I just do.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I think part of it is that's a big monkey off the back of the New York Knicks to beat the Boston Celtics, even with the Achilles injury to Jason Tatum, and even with Kristaps Porzingis playing like shit, and even with Jaylen Brown having a torn meniscus and all that. The bottom line is you took on the defending champs and you took them out in 6 games. And for the most part, it was a demoralizing way that you took out Boston in that series. And I think that's going to play into the favor of the Knicks. So honestly, guys, I know this is crazy because I don't think they're the best team in the NBA. But if you gave me $10 right now to put down on a team to win the NBA championship, I think I'm putting it on the Knicks.
All right.
I think I'm putting it on the Knicks.
Okay. All right.
For me, they have that feel right now of they're going to come out with a different level after beating Boston against Indiana. And I think the Knicks are actually going to really take it to Indiana. I think it's Knicks in 5 or 6.
Okay. All right. Man,
And
must feel
that's
good to
the
be
way I
wrong.
see it going. Luckily, I'm usually wrong. So it's probably going to be the Thunder and the Pacers, and the Thunder are going to win the championship, and we can all celebrate that. But, like, I don't know, man. I like the way these matchups go for the Timberwolves and the Knicks.
All right.
So,
Whatever, Mike.
We're going to find out. By the time we do episode 265 next week, we're going to have a real good idea of where these series are going. But we'll get to that when we get there. All right, boys, let's break it. It's 10 o'clock. Let's break it into our assholes of the week, where we take a minute to just call somebody out for being an asshole. And I very rarely lead us off in this segment.
Okay.
But I'm going to lead us off because I'm fired up about it. My asshole of the week is Ryan Clark.
And
it's Robert Griffin III.
All right.
And by proxy, it's the way everybody talks about this Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese thing. Listen, here's the bottom line on this Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese thing. These are two human beings that don't like each other. Period. End of story. They don't like each other. Caitlin Clark doesn't like Angel Reese. Angel Reese doesn't like Caitlin Clark. That is as deep as this needs to go. So when they're on the basketball court together, you're probably going to have a little bit of fireworks that happens now and then, like it did this last week when Angel Reese absolutely shoved one of the members of the Indiana Fever for a rebound. Caitlin Clark got mad about it and put a hard foul on Angel Reese. Nothing flagrant, by the way, just a good, hard basketball foul on Angel Reese. Angel Reese got up, and because it's Caitlin Clark, she doesn't like her. And part of the reason Caitlin Clark probably put the hard foul on because she doesn't like Angel Reese. And they got into a little bit on the court. And then that was it. They didn't really talk about it after the game. There wasn't this hubbub in the WNBA after the game. We realized that there are two human beings that don't like each other. And the goddamn media frenzy around this is wild. You've got RG3, who, for lack of saying this better, RG3 is always the guy that's going to bring up the thing that you wouldn't expect maybe a black commentator to say about something. That's kind of his shtick that he's come up with. And then you got Ryan Clark, who's saying RG3 is saying this shit because he doesn't know what it's like to talk to black women, which is outrageous. And they've turned this into this whole societal thing that is nonsensical. The bottom line is we don't need to be talking about, is this a black or white thing? Is this a racial thing? These two men, the reason they're my ass, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are not my asshole of the week, by the way. They did nothing wrong. Neither one of them did anything wrong. They played basketball.
It's just normal basketball.
Into the heat of a moment, and that was it. These two dudes are my asshole of the week because they've made it all about them. They've taken an Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark thing and made it about Ryan Clark and Robert Griffin III. And that's asshole, tomfoolery, bullshit. And they are my asshole of the week. So that's mine.
Boom.
Dad, who's yours?
Mine's Justin Bibb. This fucking guy.
Yep.
This fucking guy, like, come out in an interview today saying, "Oh, we have bigger priorities than the Cleveland Browns in downtown Cleveland." And no, you didn't. For the longest time, you fought. For the longest time, you fought this. You fought this to try to keep the Browns downtown because you fought this to mask, because now that the Browns want to leave downtown, you had them for the longest time as your scapegoat to not develop the lakefront. And now that they're gone, all of a sudden, now that they're officially gone, all of a sudden, oh yeah, no, like it's like you lost the girlfriend to the other guy. You're like, nah, we don't care. We had bigger plans anyway. You know, we're going to do something better anyway. No, you just you were using the Browns to mask your failures to develop the lakefront. Now I know you've only been in the job for a few years, so obviously this goes way back before your time. But no, stop pretending like you didn't want the Browns to, and you didn't do everything in your power to get the Browns to stay downtown. Stop it, asshole.
Yeah,
Man,
that's shitty. That lakefront is such a waste of space, and it could be so awesome. And the fact that they like, there's no other plan for it right now, as far as I know, right? Like if the Browns are gone, it's just
no.
You know who's proposing money to develop the lakefront? Jimmy Haslam.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the one saying, yeah, maybe we're going to move the Browns, but we're also going to invest like billions of dollars into the lakefront to try to build it up.
Because it could be an awesome area. It could be such a cool area.
Man,
there's no reason why they shouldn't.
I was down in Cincinnati this past weekend, and it was just a clear-cut example. I mean, obviously it's the river, but it was another clear-cut example of a downtown that has more character than Cleveland. Why? Because there's more to do along the water there than Cleveland.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't.
Yeah.
Listen, the old talking points that I'll never be able to get behind. If the Browns leave, it's going to wreck the shops and restaurants downtown. They play 8 fucking games there.
It's like 3 restaurants.
And I'm sorry, but most shops aren't open during the time the Browns are playing anyways. And I'm sorry, but who's going to all these restaurants before Browns games? It's not happening.
No, they're in the lot tailgating.
Listen, if your downtown is economically focused and centered on 8 Browns games every year, you have a shit ass plan for your downtown. Yeah. If anything, it should be a nice little supplement on 8 weeks every year to what you make on Saturdays and Fridays and Thursdays and Mondays and Tuesdays. But if you're going to tell me that it's going to decimate downtown for the Browns to leave on 8 weeks a year, you are full of shit. The other thing is, like, it's not just Justin Bibb.
Yeah, it's Chris Rowan.
I think we all kind of know how I tend to lean politically, and this is very against what I tend to lean. But like, yeah, Chris Rowan and Justin Bibb and Tim Ryan. I've always really liked Tim Ryan, but Tim Ryan makes this post on Twitter. I 1,000% support Chris Rowan on this, and so do the vast majority of Northeast Ohio Browns fans. We want the stadium on the lake in the city of Cleveland. What don't you understand about that? Build the dome, leave it open for all football games, make your money, but keep the culture. Hey, Tim. Hey, Tim. The culture of this place is 25 years of the most embarrassing fucking football team that has ever existed in all of history. It is the most embarrassing football franchise that has ever existed is the last 25 years of the Cleveland Browns. So, Tim, with all due respect, because I do think I respect Tim Ryan and I think he's done a lot of good things, shove that post right up your ass, Tim. There is no culture. Browns culture doesn't exist anymore. It's a failed joke at this point, and they need to get away from this place that has been, it is, to quote Mike Polk Jr., the factory of sadness has been the absolute best definition of that place for 25 fucking years. Shut up about culture. Shut up about culture.
And you know the other talking point I can't get over? I can't get over. All of these politicians, they're going to make out just the same. Why? Because it's in the same fucking county. They're acting like the Browns are going to move out and this is going to do terrible things for the economy. No, they're in the same fucking county. They're not even leaving Cuyahoga County. Stop it.
In the meantime, if I was the mayor of like Valley City, I'd be calling the Browns, being like, "Hey, you could come build across from Buckeye High School anytime you
Valley Air is a dog shit high school golf course, so just
yeah, come on, build right across from Buckeye High School. We'll bring you in anytime.
It is great. That's just the first piece of land I could think of in the.
All right, it's the same issue in Nashville though too. Like, they're building the new stadium right next to the old Nissan Stadium. But it's such a waste. Like, I am all for like the urban development, like suburban development of stadiums, because like it is such a waste of downtown space. It like, I don't know, like if you're not going to build around the stadium like they're doing in Cleveland, Nashville's fortunate to have like Broadway and all that stuff around, but like Cleveland's not that set up that way. And like, why would I want to live next to the Brown Stadium? There's nothing else to do there for 358 days out of the year.
Right.
You know, it's kind of the vast majority of it.
But Beyonce, yeah, that was a really good one. That was a really good one, Chad. Joe, who's your ass?
Not an asshole, but like, you ever like figure out how to do something, but then like can't do it
all the time?
I figured out a curveball grip, and I've never thrown a curveball, but I figured it out, and I figured out how to do the hand thing. And all I have is like a glass ball here, and I don't, I really want to try to throw a curveball, and I kind of want to throw it with. So if anyone's in Seattle wants to throw a curveball with me, let me know.
Zoom out and throw it right through that window. We got to test this out.
It's like an 800-foot drop out there. I don't know if I can do that.
Oh, shit.
I'm telling you right now, if Joe tries to throw a curveball out that window from across the room, you're going to see a fucking hole appear in that wall, the drywall behind him.
It's going straight to the Puget Sound, let me tell you. It's going to skip all the fences.
He's going to throw his shoulder out like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon.
I did not know that we were about to get a curveball as an asshole of the week. That is
no, it's not the asshole. It gives me solace being a Cleveland fan nominating this as my asshole, but it's Toronto. Like, the amount, like, if you think like the amount of like shit we talk about our teams is bad, like Toronto's tough, dude.
Yeah,
like they really fucking hate their teams, or like just set these like stupid expectations on teams that are like, I don't know, like it's just like they have a really good team, but they every year go up against the best team in the NHL and the Panthers, and it's like they're just not going to win that game. Like, I don't know if you could build that team that beats the Panthers because they beat every team. And it's just like, it kind of is what it is. It's like you're running up against, if the Yankees were, Yankees are good now. So it's like running up against the Yankees every year. It's just like, well, we ran up against the Yankees. They're incredible. Like,
yeah, it sucks.
Joe, okay, wait. I can't get over this curveball thing. Like, did you, were you practicing with this glass ball? Like, how do you know it's the proper curveball grip?
I saw, okay. I was on TikTok, and I hesitate to say this, but like Trevor Bauer came up and was just talking about his curveball grip, and he's like, one, you gotta get this finger out of the way. This finger is no good.
Yeah.
And he's like, the idea is you're rolling it off your middle finger, and the spin's initiated from that finger. I always just like threw it down coming off these two fingers. That never worked. It always just went to the ground.
Yeah.
So now it's like, well, okay, now I got to try this out, and I can't. I also, this is there's like a pedestal that's supposed to sit on, and I don't have it, so I have it literally sitting on this like this lens cleaner cloth I have here.
There's just like 50. There's just like 20 glass balls shattered all over his floor right now.
I don't know if you're shattering this. This is going to shatter a lot of things before it actually shatters.
There's so many dents in his fridge right now. The fridge is fucked.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, so I really want to try it out,
All right, boys, I want to get to a couple little quick hitters, and then I got a game for us to play before we get out of here. So there's a lot of stuff to do in a very little amount of time. But I do want to get to some quick hitters, and I want to go to the Browns. We just got done talking about the Browns.
I'm divorced from the Browns.
No, you're not.
Yeah. I mean, we have a chance to reconcile in like 2 years, but like, I'm divorced. We can talk about them, but
I can't wait for this schedule game this year.
We can talk about them, but I'm just divorced. I am divorced.
Yo, boys, the last 3 years, the Browns schedule game for I was thinking about this because we'll have Cameron Justice on to do it again.
Right.
We have been well, Chad, you were joking around last year. He had the Browns going like 17-0.
I did.
But man, did we hyped up the Browns for 3 straight years. This Browns schedule game this year is going to be a very different.
It's going to be rough.
Very
no,
real
the
rough.
11-6 season we got, right? Wasn't that?
No, no, I'm not saying not saying we were wrong. I'm not saying we were wrong. The year they went to the playoffs, we had it right. But man, we've been basically the fluffers. We've been the fluffers of the Browns for like 3 years.
I ain't fluffing this year, boys.
No,
it's going to be very different this year. I feel like it's going to be very, especially those
I
first
quit
4 weeks
fluffing.
of the season.
I quit fluffing when I was in college. Wait,
when they go, no, you didn't. When they go Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions, and then Vikings the first 5 weeks of the season.
0-5.
We're going to learn something.
0-5.
we're going to learn something about the
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns. But listen, the schedule came out. It is what it is. I personally, to me, it's like evaluating a draft right after a draft happens, because you're acting like all those teams are going to be as good or as bad as they were last year. Some of the teams that are on the Browns schedule are going to be way worse than they were last year.
Yeah.
Some of the teams that are on the Browns schedule are going to be way better than they were last year. And we're hoping the Browns are one of those teams that every other team is looking at going, that's a win, and go and they're going to be a better team. It's so different year to year. But I mean, when you look at all the noise going on with the Cleveland Browns right now, again, the primary noise continues to focus around the quarterback position. And I do think it's very interesting to talk about as it evolves week in and week out, because there are two trains of thought that are very quickly developing with the Cleveland Browns in the quarterback position. Train of thought number one is fuck everything. You have to try to win as many games as you can this year. So Joe Flacco needs to be your starting quarterback, and you need to roll with that and try to win as many games as you can this year and then see what happens next year. Train of thought number two is, well, why don't you pump the brakes on that idea, because you got 2 first-round picks next year. And even if you think Jacksonville is going to be better this year than they were last year, you don't think Jacksonville is going to be a great team this year. So you're probably in all likelihood going to have 2 very good first-round picks next year, where you're going to be able to, if you don't have the pick to get that quarterback you want, you're going to be able to trade those picks to get that quarterback that you want. And you have to find out this year if one of these 2 guys you drafted is that guy, so that you don't have to take the quarterback with those 2 picks. Those are the 2 developing trains of thought here. And so you heard a report come out from Mary Kay today that said, well, when they come out for camp, it's going to be Kenny Pickett and it's going to be Dylan Gabriel that get the majority of the first team snaps. And then it's going to be Shedeur Sanders and it's going to be Joe Flacco that get like the second team reps. And man, did that make Cleveland explode. And I am all for I'm in team. I'll let you guys say what you think. I am all about team. I'm cool. If you want to find out if Kenny Pickett can be a guy, find out. Because he's the question mark here. Can he be a guy? Find out. But also, you drafted Dylan Gabriel, 94th overall. He's a top 100 pick in the draft. Can he be a guy? Like Shedeur Sanders, I feel like is the guy that you could give a little time. But like, I think you got to find out whether Pickett or Gabriel are the guy. So to me, I have no shade to Joe Flacco. I have nothing bad to say about the guy. I don't want to see him play 1 down for the Cleveland Browns. I don't want to see him play 1 down. That I'm in team, find out what you have so that you know going into the draft next year what you have to do. That's all I want them to do this year.
As someone who's divorced from the Cleveland Browns, I fail to find the energy to have comments about this, to have thoughts about this. But if I were not divorced from the Cleveland Browns, my thoughts would be the main thing you have to come out with this year. Wins are not important. They're just not this year. The most important thing, if wins come, great. The most important thing this year that you have to find out this year is your plan for the future going forward at quarterback. And it's not going to be Joe Flacco. It's not going to be Joe Flacco, right? Joe Flacco is there for, maybe he can start the first 2 games, 3 games. I don't know if you don't feel confident in Dylan or Shedeur's development, but you have got to play them this year. Or at least have to play Dylan. Maybe Kenny Pickett has a Sam Darnold year and he can go out there and we can go 11-6, which would be my nightmare. And then Kenny can go out and get himself a nice contract.
He can sign with the Saints next year. Yeah,
but it is you have got to know, right? I think I said this last week. When these guys get in, I either want them to be the guy or I want them to be really bad. I don't want the in between to where it makes the Browns think that they maybe they give him another year and they pass on one of the better quarterbacks in next year's draft.
Don't need Deshaun Kaiser.
No, you don't need Deshaun Kaiser. So yes, that is my thoughts on this. Is you have to at least play Dylan Gabriel this year to find out your plan going forward for the future at quarterback. By the way, preemptive asshole it is going to be the Browns if that other Mary Kay report. If that other Mary Kay report comes out, and it turns out to be true that Deshaun Watson might play this year.
He's not going to play this year.
I know. That's why I said preemptive, because if it does, if he somehow finds his way back onto the field this year, oh my God!
You want to hear some kind of like? You want to hear something kind of like sick? I'm excited we got another quarterback battle. It's been a couple years.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
We've had it, and it's listen, like, wait, we know this song and dance.
I'll take the quarterback battle all day over Deshaun Watson. And by the way, the report is nonsense. When Jimmy Haslam comes out and calls it the failed trade for Deshaun Watson, that story's over, man. They're just letting him in the room. That's all that's happening there. But like, Joe, thoughts here?
Yeah, thoughts here. So, one, very excited for the quarterback battle. Two, how many quarterbacks play during just one? Well, I mean, three if you count all the quarterbacks that get injured, but like one's gonna go at some point, right? We're not gonna carry four quarterbacks on our roster.
No, one's gonna go.
So that's gonna be Pickett or it's gonna be Flacco. You're not gonna drop one of your draft picks here. So I think the battle for camp is which one are we keeping out of those two? And then the other one is, I mean, I would agree with like, let's just figure out what we got this year. I mean, Jacksonville is the worst team in their division still. They have not gotten a significantly better where they're going to be Texas or Indiana, Indianapolis or Tennessee. Like it's just, they could be Tennessee. Tennessee's shit, but like, they're still bad. So I think I'd like to see the battle. I'd like to see the young guys get a chance. And in my opinion, it doesn't matter because I think it's already set in stone what Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are going to do. Like, you know, they made this draft pick. I bet you the day after the draft, they had an idea of what they're going to do with this, and they're just going to let camp play out. And that move is going to be made. And I don't know if there's going to be somebody that like comes out of camp that's like, okay, all of a sudden, like we didn't think this guy was going to do it, but all of a sudden he's starting quarterback. Like they have this plan for how they're going to install these quarterbacks throughout the season, and it's going to go barring injury according to that plan.
Yeah. Is it is it true? Because I saw like there was a clip today that about from Rizzo saying that Andrew Berry makes the decision on quarterback. Is that true? Because if that is a bunch of bullshit.
No.
Okay, good.
I'm going to say this really clearly.
Okay.
There are a couple. There are a few. There are several even Cleveland media people who understand how things work.
Right, sure. Yeah.
There's a couple big name Cleveland media people that don't have a fucking clue how things work.
All right.
And there are a couple Cleveland media people who just go, I'm going to say what I say. And it's going to sound right because I've done this for 40 fucking years. For some reason, some idiot has written me a paycheck for 40 years, and I'm cool with it. No.
All right.
No, the Cleveland Browns have showed you. This is demonstrably something they have showed you. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, they work on a team. And you might not like the team, and it hasn't produced great results, but they work on a team. So for somebody like Tony Rizzo to come out and say, this is how it is, Andrew Berry makes the decision. He doesn't know. He doesn't know shit about fuck. And that is how I'll leave that. All right, let's divorce ourselves from the Browns. I liked how you talked about that, Chad. I'm prepared. I'm serving my papers to the Browns for tonight. I want to talk about one more thing, and then I want to play a game, and then we're getting out of here. Stanley Cup playoffs, boys. So let's just set the stage. Right now, the Eastern Conference semifinals the Eastern Conference Finals is underway, and the Florida Panthers are just kind of fucking doing what they do. They have gone into Carolina tonight, and with 13 minutes to go in this game, the Florida Panthers are leading 4-1. They have dominated this game. Carolina already looks frustrated by this series. It's a Florida team that is coming off a Game 7 victory in which they embarrassed the Toronto Maple Leafs. The worst Game 7 performance you can imagine in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Florida went into Toronto. Remember, Florida's been the road team the last two series. They went into Toronto and just 6-1 embarrassed the Maple Leafs in Game 7. Literally broke the city of Toronto. But we're also talking about this Carolina team that took out the number 1 seed Washington Capitals in 5 games. It's a Carolina team that's looked awesome so far in this playoffs. So I know that we've already got a bit of a view on what this series looks like with Florida up 4-1 and I'm going to cruise to a Game 1 victory. But talk about this Eastern Conference Finals matchup between the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. You're muted, Joe. You're muted. You look real confident. And then you muted yourself.
Sorry, my mic got unplugged, so it auto-muted. Florida at 4. I just think, Florida is just going to come out. Well, they have in Game 1. But this Florida team is so dominant. They are so physical. They are suffocating with the puck. They do not give you any space. I just don't think Carolina is built for a team like Florida. Like, it's just Carolina is a very good defensive team. They obviously had that great win against the Capitals. I think the Capitals were kind of posers this year. They had a lot of young talent that won a lot of games, but they got like the President's. Oh, they didn't get the President's Trophy, but kind of like the curse going into the playoffs of being the most dominant team in the East.
We got a fight going on right now. Ghost of Spear and Marshawn throwing hands.
Love it.
I
think the Panthers are running with this series.
I won't disagree with you that the Panthers are going to win, but if they win the series in 4, I will. All these treehouse beers that I love, I'm going to ship them to you in Seattle. There's no way Florida's winning the series in 4.
I'm taking you up on that.
All right, Chad, who's going to win that bet?
You're muted too.
Now
hey,
I can hear you. Your mic's off. You bitch.
Hey. I had Florida in 7 at first, but after watching tonight, I'm going to say Florida in 6.
Win in 4.
Carolina is a team. Florida's doing to Carolina what Carolina did to Washington, and that's clog up the middle in between the circles, get physical with the team in between the circles, and force them into bad shots. And that's exactly what Florida has done tonight. They clogged up the dirty areas, the areas you need to get playoff goals, and that's they just. Carolina is a much smaller team, and Florida just kicked their ass in those areas tonight. And because of that, it really tired Carolina out. And it's Jacob Slavin played the worst game I think he's played in these playoffs. And if they continue to play like this, they could possibly win it in 4. But I'm gonna give Carolina more credit than that. So I'm gonna say Florida in 6.
I'm not going to overreact to this. I still think Carolina has a shot in this series.
They do, but Freddie Anderson's going to have to play much better.
I think Carolina and Florida are annoying in different ways. I think Florida is physically more dominant. I think Carolina is pesky and fast and weird. Like when Carolina plays really well, I think when Carolina plays really well, they beat everybody.
Yeah.
When Carolina plays really, really well, they beat everybody. And I think they're going to come out in a couple games this series and play really well. The question is the physical dominance of Florida going to tire out that speed and that peskiness of the Carolina Hurricanes? And if it does, then I could see Florida in 6. There is
Yeah.
no way Florida's winning this series in 4.
And
Go
that's
to
why-
I'll see you boys next week.
I hear you
Oh,
are.
and that's why I think they're going to win it in 6. I think
I
eventually
didn't even-
Florida's just going to wear them down.
Joe, I didn't even ask you anything in return. You don't have to give me anything in return. If Florida wins this game in 4, I'm just going to send you beers. All right.
Love this bet.
All right.
Go over to the Western Conference, and you've got what a run for the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, Edmonton breezed through their round 1 series, but I don't think anybody saw them breezing through the Las Vegas Knights in 5 games. I mean, Edmonton steamrolled the Las Vegas Knights. Nobody saw it coming. But they're going up against this Dallas Stars team, who I think is a much deeper team. I think Dallas is the deepest team in this playoffs. You can put them up with Florida. And Dallas had to scratch and claw their way through Colorado in round 1 in 7 games. And then they take down the 1 seed in the West, the Winnipeg Jets, in 6 games. Dallas looks really, really good. I mean, I think the betting money in these series has to be Florida versus Dallas in the Stanley Cup Finals. 2 great hockey towns, right? Fucking Miami and Dallas.
Incredible.
Just hockey cities through and through.
Incredible.
But if there's, I will say this, I think Carolina's got a chance in the East, even with the way game 1's going. But if we're going to talk about a team that has a chance, I mean, Edmonton has been awesome so far this playoffs.
If there's any team that can beat Dallas, it's Edmonton. I mean, and it's just the top 2 lines. Like, they are just so good. You have the best player on the planet. You have a top 10 player behind him with Leon Draisaitl. Like, goaltending is always going to be kind of an issue, and like defense is always going to be kind of an issue for Edmonton. But if there's a team that beat Dallas, and Dallas, I said this going into the playoffs, like, they're just the deepest, like, they're built for the playoffs. Like, they will take you to game 6, game 7 every time. I think this is another game 6 or game 7. I'm probably leaning towards 7 on this one. And I think Edmonton takes it. Like, I think they just have just this impeccable drive that is going to push them through in this series. Now, granted, I feel like they've had an easier road to get here than maybe in years past. Like, I feel like Vegas is kind of like fading a little bit. They're not the Golden Knights that they have been in past years, which, like, boo-hoo, the expansion team with like infinite success, like, sucks for them. But I just like, I feel like their path has been a little bit easier than it has been in the past. And maybe that's to their advantage. We'll see. But I kind of like Edmonton in 7 on this one.
Real quick, Chad, I'm gonna throw it to you here, but I do think you made in your video, I think you made such a great point, which is what leads me to Edmonton too. You made your preview video for the conference finals, and you pointed out that Edmonton has done what they have done without McDavid and Draisaitl really going off yet.
Yeah,
like, they've done everything they've done without those 2 going crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what has me leaning Edmonton in this series. How are you feeling really about that series?
I mean, they've contributed points, but they haven't had to carry this team like they've had to in years past.
Yes.
And the thing that gives me more confidence as well, you're right. So Oilers, first 2 games against the Kings, they were dog shit. They couldn't defend themselves out of a fucking paper bag. That doesn't even make sense. But they couldn't do anything defensively. They couldn't do anything defensively. They had to match goal for goal with the Kings, right? They had to outscore the Kings. And Stuart Skinner got benched. Stuart Skinner got benched for our old Lake Erie Monster friend Calvin Pickard. And Calvin Pickard carried them through the rest of that series. And you wondered, were they going to put Skinner back in net for that series against the Golden Knights, or were they going to stick with Pickard? Chris Knobloch, head coach of the Oilers, went back to Stuart Skinner, and it showed confidence in his goalie. And then the defense stepped up, and they did not give Vegas an inch. Vegas didn't even try. It looked like Vegas didn't even try. It didn't. It looked like they didn't even try, but they didn't even give an inch. They played shutdown defense. Stuart Skinner had probably his best 5 games that he's had in the last 2 playoffs. In these playoffs and the last year's playoffs. So I just, with the way he's playing and with the fact that the two best offensive players in the National Hockey League haven't even really had to do anything yet. Again, they've contributed, but they haven't had to do anything yet. I think Edmonton takes it in 7. Dallas is worn down. Ottinger is definitely the better goalie than Stuart Skinner.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dallas, it's going to be such an intriguing series to watch. And I definitely think it's going 7, but I think Edmonton's going to come out on top.
All right, boys. I'm going to save mine for last, but I want to get into cheers of the week. You guys know what my cheers of the week is going to be, so stay away from that. We'll play our little game right at the end.
Yeah.
I want to go to your cheers of the week first. We'll end with the little game and we'll get out of here. So our cheers of the week, very much the opposite of our asshole of the week. Just calling somebody out for doing something cool or somebody that deserves to be called out for something positive. Joe, why don't you start us off with our cheers of the week this week?
Yeah, this is going to be quite Yankee related. And sorry, but my brother-in-law works for the Yankees and was able to take us to a game in Seattle here last week, which is why I wasn't on the podcast. I just remembered that. We got second row, first base side, like you got to reach out, touch the net. Like it was just an incredible experience to see the game that close.
Reach over somebody else's head to do it.
Yeah. Aaron Judge is a massive human being. Like he is really big. I might have had a couple of beers towards the end, and like there was a walk-off that Seattle, JP Crawford hit a single for a walk-off, and I might have done a little rockabye maybe as they were walking off the field. I don't know if anyone saw that, but like there's a non-zero chance that somebody saw that. And that's the worst thing to ever do, I think, to a Yankees fan or player is that like rockabye Josh Naylor celly, because we still lost that series, but like
correct.
The beers help talk, and also the garlic fries. But yeah, it's a great time. Great.
I love that. Chad, what's your cheer of the week this week?
My cheers goes out to Joe. Oh, never mind. My cheers goes out to Crowley's out here in Lake County. Crowley's Dive Bar. There's a location in Paynesville. There's a location I went to the one in Kirtland, and there's one in Eastlake as well. I've heard so much about this place. It's every list I ever come across. It's voted the best burger in Lake County, and let me tell you something. It was absolutely worth the hype.
It's a good ass burger.
Delicious. So great smash burger. That's my cheers of the week.
I have traveled over to Crowley's for a smash burger, and it is delightful.
Yeah.
So I agree. All right, I got a secondary cheer of the week that I just wanted to call out because it was great. But this last week was my daughter's birthday, her 4th birthday, and on the day of her birthday, it just so happened to coincide with the day that she didn't have preschool, and instead her preschool got tickets for a Crushers game out in Avon, and we all went to the Crushers game, and they were playing the Florence Yalls, and I gotta tell you, boys,
let's go.
I fucking love the Florence Yalls.
Yeah.
Like
it's a great team name.
If I were ranking my favorite sports teams that were not Cleveland teams,
yeah,
the Yalls of the Frontier League are going to be way the hell up there on my list. Because not only do they have a cool ass name. Remember when we worked, Chad, when I was the promotions director and on-field host for the Crushers, Joe, when you were the keg runner for the Crushers, and Chad, when you were the PA voice of the Crushers.
When you were out there in left field upgrading seats and I couldn't even fucking see you.
Yeah. And I was like, Chad, say what I told you, bitch. It was the Florence Freedom. Boring. Nobody gives a shit about that.
Right.
And then they changed their name because when you drive down 71 South and you get through Cincinnati and you get into Kentucky and you keep going, and there's that water tower that just says Florence Y'all. And they changed their name to the Florence Y'all Elite. And then they put the all-time great jerseys together that script Y'alls. And
I haven't seen the jerseys.
And it's like powder blue with red and white. It is elite jerseys. Yeah, look up the Florence Y'alls jerseys. They are spectacular.
Yeah.
Outrageously good. So I make a post while I'm there. I take a picture of the left fielder and I say, hey, listen. Elite name, elite jerseys, go Crushers, but like shout out to the Florence Y'alls. And Florence, their admin responds to me. And this is my other thing I love about like minor league teams because they don't give a fuck about it. their admin on their socials responds to me and goes, I said something like it's elite, blah, blah, blah. And they respond to me, they go, you bet y'all's ass it is.
Hey-o.
And literally 17 seconds after that happens, the Crushers go up 9-0. And I go,
yeah.
whoa. I go, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, Florence. I responded to them. I
Scoreboard,
said,
baby.
hey, listen, I gave you a shout out and I was saying positive things to you, but let's tone it down on the confidence level as the Lake Erie Crushers are currently putting up a football score on your ass.
Let's go.
Like maybe tone it down a little bit. And these awesome sons of bitches from Florence, Kentucky respond to me and go, listen, you're the one that tweeted us that we have elite jerseys and names. We never said we were good at baseball. I couldn't even. I was like, touche?
Yeah,
That's a
touche.
spectacular thing.
Oh,
So
man.
shout out to the L's.All right. My
The
last
alter
cheers of the
ego?
week. And this,
What about the Eugene exploding whales? Do you guys like that one?
I mean, I did see that. That's awesome.
We got to do a minor league, a draft of minor league teams because there's so many good ones.
Maybe
out
not
there.
even
And
a draft, but maybe I'll put together like a really nice PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm really good with Microsoft Office products. I'll put together a really killer Microsoft PowerPoint presentation and we'll go through some of the best ones.
because we got to do minor league teams. We also got to do alt names. Like that's two separate conversations.
Correct.
Like, yeah.
One real quick shout out, like cheers, I guess. Cheers goes to the warehouse manager for Cardinal Health, the place I work at, out in Portland, Oregon there, because going out there for work for a little bit next week, and what has two thumbs and is golfing Bandon Dunes.
Oh, let's go. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
when are you gonna
I'm
be
so
there?
excited.
I can drive down.
I'm so excited for Chad to get up to a par 3 that's 127 yards and bust his 3 wood out.
Yeah, I can't wait. No, I'm going to go all the way back to the black tees. Yeah.
All right.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
All right. So my last cheers and the one that we want to play a game with. Listen, man, this dude was a part of my childhood. He was a part of a lot of our childhoods. But we got word today that the amazing George Wendt passed away. And George Wendt was a voice in the Toy Story franchise. George Wendt has done a lot of things, but man, George Wendt is number one, first and foremost, known as his role in Cheers, sitting there at the corner of the bar, drinking beers, being the comedic relief of all comedic relief in Cheers. And George Wendt has passed away. And just one of those guys. Sometimes you get like famous people that you feel like were just normal people that just like you could have been your uncle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
George Wendt was real good at making you feel like he was just kind of like an uncle figure.
Yeah, for sure.
And so he passed away, and it made me think. George Wendt was a staple character.
Yeah.
A staple character on Cheers. And it made me think, boys, why don't we do a little 3-round draft?
Let's go.
A little quick 3-round draft
Let's go.
of the best sitcoms of all time.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Let's go.
yeah.
Let's go.
And so I did our random draw, and for once, I actually pulled first.
Hey, oh, nice.
Quick
It's
pause.
Go ahead.
Nobody's left in Carolina. Everyone's left the arena in Carolina. Panthers up 5-1.
Gone.
3 games
Very-
ago, baby.
It's very empty.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a sitcom draft. We're going to do 3 rounds, 9 sitcoms altogether. We're going to snake it. So it's going to be me and then Chad and then Joe, and then Joe and then Chad and then me and then Chad and then Joe. We're taking 9 sitcoms.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
And I am I'm going to start it off with that sitcom that I grew up with.
Nice.
And I'm gonna start it off with a sitcom. Every single word of the theme song, I can still sing it. And I remember growing up when it was on, we sat and watched it every time. And it spun off some great other shows. But I'm gonna go with Norm's Final Resting Place. Norm spot. I'm gonna go with Cheers. Cheers is my number one pick for the greatest sitcom of all time. I love Cheers.
I was gonna give you so much shit if you didn't pick that.
Well,
I
you know what?
know. And I do this randomizer for the draft, and I never get the first pick ever. I never. If you've watched the show for 5 fucking plus years, I never get the first pick, and I finally got it, and I was like, "Give me Cheers all day, every day." Shout out to George Wendt. Shout out to Norm and Cliff and Sam and the ladies behind the bar and Fraser Crane and the whole group. But I don't know. Like, Joe, you're probably a little too young. Chad, you're not.
No.
I don't know if it was the same way in your house, but man, Cheers was something we watched all the time growing up in my house.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I did watch Cheers, but there was one staple sitcom there was actually 2 staple sitcoms that were on in my house all the time, which brings me to my 1-1. And it's my own personal 1-1, and I'm not going to, it doesn't, it's fine if, obviously everybody's going to have their opinions, but
yes.
Married with Children, baby. Yeah. The Adventures of Al Bundy, Marcy Darcy, Jefferson Darcy. Yes. Obviously Steve. You can't forget about Steve. Bud and Kelly. Married with Children. I begged my parents to stay up because it was on at 9:00 at night on like a Sunday. I was like, please just let me stay up to watch it and then go to bed. And that they eventually did, and I just fell in love with it. And one of the shows that really pushed the envelope when it came to writing. So, Married with Children, my 1-1.
Wow,
I love that.
Nice. I love sitcoms because I feel like you can't really go wrong with them. I might go wrong with my second pick here, but the first pick I will not go wrong with. My 1-1 is Seinfeld. Without a doubt. I could watch that show. I have watched that show almost one time through every year for the past 10 years. Like, it's so good. It's so comforting and homey. Like,
perfect. I feel like, Joe,
it's your happy place.
I feel like Seinfeld is the one. In my house, Seinfeld is the one where we maybe aren't even really watching TV. We might be cooking dinner or in the house or something, but we'll just put Seinfeld on, and we'll catch a joke here or there. It'll make you laugh. Seinfeld, all-time great. I agree with you.
It's
100%.
one of the shows you can come in at any point of the episode. It doesn't matter. You can just have it rolling. You can fall asleep to it. You can do it while you're cooking.
It was my. If I didn't take Cheers, I was taking Seinfeld. Easy.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I probably don't need to take this one at 2, but I just love this show so much. So well written. It's the funniest fucking show in the world.
What is it?
Give me Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Always Sunny. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
I love that show. It is so horrible. The comedy is outrageous.
The best, I'd argue it's the best dark comedy sitcom of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. And they're still going. They're so
I know.
I think it's easily the best modern sitcom of all time.
Yeah.
For sure. It's so good.
For sure.
And the quotability of Always Sunny. I sing the Nightman, the whatever that I sing that song in my head fucking weekly.
Yep.
So that's a great pick. That's a great pick.
I just saw a video recently where they reenacted the Nightman musical or Dayman musical for a proposal. Where the guy got his entire family to do the musical because him and his wife are such big fans, and then they proposed at the end of it.
Hell yes. All right, so Joe, you go back-to-back picks with Seinfeld and It's Always Sunny, and you got real strong ones there. Chad, you started things off with Married with Children. What are you going to do here in round 2?
I'm going to go with something more recently, and this is also like a comfort show to me. Like Mike, you talked about Seinfeld, you just kind of have it on, if you're cooking dinner or whatever, right? And I fell in love with the wit of this show. It was just so quick-witted, and I just thought it was just brilliant writing. I'm sticking with the theme songs here. Why? Because I don't know. I already went off with Married with Children, so here we go.
Damn, that's a good one.
New Girl, baby. I Schmidt, Winnie the Bish, Nick Miller. It's. I love that show so much, and I watch it on repeat. I'll watch whatever episode's on. It doesn't matter. I will love it.
I have heard a billion good. I've never seen one episode, and I'm ashamed of it.
Yeah,
I've only heard great things about the show New Girl, and I've never seen an episode of it, and it makes me sad.
What?
Oh,
I've never seen one episode.
Oh, whoa! Oh,
What are you doing tonight? Watch it.
oh.
It's so good.
It
You don't
really
have to
is.
sleep tonight.
That was
Stay
pick
up to
3
watch.
for me.
No, listen. I've only heard good things, so I'm not bad talking it. I'm ashamed that I've never seen it.
Has Katie seen it?
That brings it to me for 2 picks.
Oh my god.
And I'm going to go old school with 1 pick. And I'm going to go with maybe my top 2 favorite shows of all time.
Okay.
And those are going to be my last 2 picks here.
Well, sure.
I'm going to go with MASH.
Okay.
Man, I wish MASH was like played more. Like, you know how like Seinfeld, if you turn on like TBS, it's just on.
Yeah.
I wish MASH was played more nowadays because
You ever seen the CW? It's on like all day.
no, I haven't seen the CW. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Check it out.
I need it on a channel that people fucking watch. No, MASH. Give me MASH all day. I love that show. I love just everything about it. Just everything about MASH.
Okay.
Again, very nostalgic, very about my childhood. MASH was on TV at my house all the time. And so I'm going with MASH. And then I'm going to round things out for me. So I've done Cheers, I've done MASH, and I'm going to round things out with what I will say is my all-time favorite TV show. And it's not even close. There's nothing that comes in even a distant second place. I'm going to go with Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I
All
know
right.
it piggybacks on Seinfeld a little bit, but it's also very different than Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curb Your
Way more
Enthusiasm.
awkward.
I have seen every episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm 7 fucking times, maybe.
Okay.
I could not love that show anymore. I love it. All I want to do is watch it when it's on. Larry David and the way he acts. Give me Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I'm going with,
Excellent.
for my 3, I'm going with Cheers, I'm going with MASH, and I'm going with Curb.
Excellent.
Chad, what's your last pick?
Well, my last pick is a show you could not remake today. And everybody is wants to remake it, but you couldn't possibly do it.
Damn it, Chad.
Yeah.
Yep. Office, baby. I love it.
Good
I
call.
fell in love with it. Fell in love with it.
I want to know why you say you couldn't remake it today. I think you absolutely could remake it today.
I mean, well, it would be a very, very different show.
Very different show.
The racial humor in that.
Oh, I think you
That show?
absolutely would get away with it.
Woo! Yeah.
It would be different. It just like
Yeah.
it rode the perfect line at the time.
Absolutely.
The line would be
Very
tough
well
to
written.
cross. Line would be you could do it in different ways, but it wouldn't be the same.
It was very well written. But
Yeah.
I've seen every episode of The Office and I love every second of it. That's
Yeah.
great. So, Chad, you go with The Office and New Girl and Married with Children. Great picks. Joey, what are you going to wrap yours up with, bud?
That kind of blows up my last spot. I was hoping Office was going to fall in there, but I will take a very close second here and go Parks and Rec because I think
Nice.
if there was a show to take the exact same style and hit it out of the park, it was Parks and Rec. And just Ron Swanson's the best character of TV of all time. Like, not all time, but he's really good. And it's
Yeah,
just,
of course.
it's an
I mean, he's in
incredible
the top 10 for sure.
He's in the top 10.
Yeah.
Fantastic show. So that's going to run out for me.
All right. So, Joe, what were your 3? List them again.
It was Seinfeld, Always Sunny, and Parks and Rec.
Oh, really good. Chad, list yours.
Married with Children, New Girl, and The Office.
And then I did Cheers, MASH, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think we came up with a really good list. I do want to open it for 10 seconds into some honorable mentions.
Oh, easy.
We could go way too long. What's your first thought, Chad?
The Family Guy, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, no. First thought.
Oh, yeah. Family Guy.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think we could probably put Family Guy and The Simpsons together as the best two animated sitcoms of all time.
For sure.
Right? Joe, what about you?
If we're going animated, you got to throw South Park in there. That's just
100%.
You got to throw South Park in there.
100%. Absolutely, that belongs.
Yeah. Modern Family is also one that we like a lot.
That is the second best modern sitcom. Yeah. I love Modern Family.
Phil Dunphy also deserves a spot in the top 10. He is just one of the best characters in TV of all time.
Yeah. I mean, so many, like How I Met Your Mother.
I really loved How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Really love that show. So that was going to be on mine 100%. I'm going to do an underrated one from when I was growing up that I absolutely loved. You guys remember the show Third Rock from the Sun?
Oh, hell yeah.
I fucking love that show. John Lithgow. Yes. The aliens. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and I mean, what's that guy? Stewart. What's his face? Stewart.
Stewart.
And Jane Curtin.
Yeah.
And what a cast on that show. I loved Third Rock from the Sun. That's a great one.
Big Bang Theory, Home Improvement.
Oh, I love Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Home Improvement.
Frasier. I was a nerd. I loved Frasier.
I'm sure you did.
Minus how the cast had turned out today, but that 70s show at the time was on every time I got home from school, and I loved that show so much.
Hell yeah.
Cast today is a little questionable.
Not great, Bob. Not great.
Malcolm in the Middle, that was a great one.
We never really got into Malcolm in the Middle. I watched it a few times. Didn't love it. But Bryan Cranston went on to do some things.
He sped a little bit with the best of them.
He is the one who knocks. That's what he said to Malcolm, I believe.
Frankie Muniz is a NASCAR racer.
He took a nice career path. I'm glad he kind of had a life after all the acting.
I think of the ones from when I was growing up, the one that I really wanted to put into my top 3, I just couldn't, is The Wonder Years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wonder Years.
I mean, just hearing Joe Cocker singing Little Help from My Friends and Fred Savage and Winnie. Who didn't, if Chad, if you are our age, is Winnie the biggest crush ever? From when you were a kid?
Yeah, yes.
Winnie's the crush.
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved Alyssa Milano too.
Yeah, but like
from Who's the Boss? Who's the Boss?
Winnie from Wonder Years. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Winnie Cooper.
Oh, great. Anyways, that is all to give a big shout out to George Wendt, who passed away today. And who provided a lot of laughs as Norm at the corner of the bar in Cheers. So that's going to do it for episode 264 of the Garage Beers podcast. For the last thing we have to do are just give our thank yous out. Big thank you goes to our special guest, Justin Rowan, talking Cavs with us from the official podcast of the Cavaliers, the Chase Down Podcast. Make sure you go follow them at Chase Down Pod on X. Make sure you follow Justin at Cavsanita. Big time shout out to Justin for coming on. Chad, what happened?
Don't forget to talk about the difficulties we've been having posting the episode.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Yeah. All right, fine.
Our next biggest thank you goes out to the OBR for hosting us at the OBR on the socials, theobr.com. Make sure you go follow, subscribe to everything that they do. The best Cleveland Browns coverage in Cleveland happens at the OBR, and then you get to hang out with us once a week here on the Garage Beers podcast and talk about everything, including the Browns and everything else. But we do want to say this. We've had a little technical snag when it comes to posting our episodes on the podcast version. We are working through that, and we should have that worked out in the next day or two. I know our last podcast didn't even hit Apple or Spotify where it usually goes, but this week we will have it worked out. And so you'll be able to go get episode 263, episode 264, starting at some point this week. We are working through it. It's been a crazy situation, but we are working through it. So thank you for bearing with us. Again, if you look for us on Apple or Spotify and we're not there yet because we haven't worked through it, you can always find us on YouTube or on Twitch. So catch us there or go watch the replay on our Twitter stream because you can find it there. Our last thank you is going to go out to all of you, those of you that joined us live here tonight, over 600 people in here tonight. Whether you joined us in the comments or you were just hanging out, watching with us, having a beer, talking sports, we appreciate you. We love you, and we appreciate the support as always. Like our buddy Justin Rowan here, who says, love the show, boys. Go Guards, go Browns, go Cavs, go Buckeyes, go Blue Jackets, go everybody else. Shout out to you, Justin. Thanks for tuning in. That's going to do it for episode 264 of the Garage Beers podcast. We will see you next week for episode 265. Until then, go follow Chad at Garage Beers Chad. Go follow Joe at Garage Beers Joe. Go follow the show at The Garage Beers on all the socials. I am Michael Keefe at Garage Beers Mike, and we'll see you 1 week from today. Until then, cheers, everybody.